Alright folks, today I'm here to bring you my thoughts and feelings on The Walking Dead Dead City Season 2 Episode 1, Power Equals Power. Now, I'm a little late posting this as I had a bit of a busy weekend, so instead of going through every aspect of the episode, I just want to give my immediate thoughts on whatever stood out to me as positive or negative. But first things first, did I enjoy the episode? Well, yeah, I did. Quite a bit actually. It wasn't anything groundbreaking or universe-shifting, but it did a fantastic job at setting up the season and its plot lines while refamiliarizing us with the characters and status quo. The story involving returning power back to the city has to be some of the most interesting stuff this franchise has done in a while, and its implications on the future can't be understated. A lot of my problems with Daryl Dixon as a whole comes from its lack of direction, but I really don't feel that way with Dead City. It really seems like this show is building towards something big that will change things going forward forever, and I am more than here for it, as the last universe-shifting event left us more disappointed rather than excited. Whenever something new in the Walking Dead universe releases, I like to watch it through a couple times before really giving my thoughts, as for someone like me, this is information that can completely change how I approach some of my lore videos going forward. And thankfully, I'm happy to say this episode expanded on the world building from last season without contradicting or muddying anything up. In fact, what we see with New Babylon kinda reinforced everything I've been talking about in my most recent videos with the world, or at least Eastern US, expanding into a more lawful, structured, and stable place. I've been starving to see more of New Babylon, and it seems like the season is really delivering on that, as in this episode alone, quite a lot of information I've suspected was confirmed, such as New Babylon making up multiple different settlements and towns. One of which now being the Bricks, Maggie's new home introduced last season. Now, I'm not gonna sugarcoat this, the Bricks suck ass and make no sense. Why aren't all these people at the Commonwealth? Or at the very least, under Commonwealth protection? I don't think that's been explained in the series yet, which I find ridiculous as the main show ended with our group essentially taking over. And looking even closer at this place only reinforces the question of why the hell are they there? It's like half in ruins, which I get may be good for repurposing, but it still begs the question, what is the point when your son could be living, well, here? It's something that just needs to be addressed sooner or later, but regardless, for what it is, I do like that the Bricks is now under New Babylon law, as right outside their gate, a sign is planted that officially acknowledges them as members, while giving us an honest-to-God post-apocalyptic timekeeping format. I recently made a timeline video where I estimated the first season of Dead City took place around the 17-year mark, so this just straight up confirms that. There is just so much to take from this little sign. What the hell does PDI mean, or what is the Blue Ridge territory? Well, I'm assuming these questions will be answered as the season continues, but this type of world building is what I've been wanting to see. And I'm really curious to hear what you think PDI stands for in the comments down below. Personally, I think Blue Ridge territory could possibly indicate the New Babylon Federation is large enough to be made up of their own states, I guess, while the meaning of PDI remains unknown. I'm sure it stands for post-dead something, but I'm just super excited to see a formal acknowledgement of timekeeping in the Walking Dead universe. What's really interesting, however, is that we learn New Babylon essentially forced the Bricks into joining them by cutting off their trade partners, which, could be Alexandria for all we know, but shows us once again just how strict their laws can be, as they have done this in order to muster up the numbers for their mission in Manhattan. They are traveling from town to town under New Babylon jurisdiction in order to draft civilians to fight the war for methane. A simple but effective way to get Maggie back to the island, as she stands out to Pearlie Armstrong as a particularly valuable addition to their ranks with her experience last season. We even see a man strung up for running from the law, as it's stated in their treaty the Federation has the right to conscript whoever is capable if it's for the greater good, which we later see includes children. It sounds as if their mass production of corn for biofuel is starting to run into issues with pests, which we are shown through the moths, so it definitely feels as if this is a fight that needs to be fought, especially with how quickly the Federation appears to be growing. This New World power source, much like we've been discussing, has the potential to essentially restore the world to its former glory while giving the dead a practical purpose, and those a part of New Babylon are well aware of this and willing to do whatever to get it. The only thing I didn't really like is that Maggie is treated as above their laws as she negotiates to come along as long as nobody else from the bricks gets drafted. Pearlie believes she's such an asset that she's worth sacrificing 20 potential soldiers. But I just don't get the logic when it sounds like the bricks were annexed specifically to add to their army's numbers. I mean, a man was hung for running from conscription, so why can Maggie just say, "over my dead body," and get away with it? I just found it a little bit contrived when the rest of the setup was pretty well done. And they try to justify this as a good decision by showing Maggie kill like 15 walkers, but I mean, by now, who can take that many on? Well, apparently Ginny, as she rushes in to fight, attempting to prove herself as a capable soldier before nearly getting herself killed. But I guess that was still enough to prove she could be an asset. So, closing out Maggie's side of the episode, the two take off towards Manhattan along with the New Babylon Marshals, while Herschel Jr. stays behind at the bricks as Maggie fears his safety from the Dama if he were to join. Again, for some reason, I am absolutely fascinated with New Babylon and the way they function, so I can't wait to see them explored further. The only issues for me with this side of the episode, again, is the lack of context explaining why they are even dealing with this in the first place when a billion other super colonies are in the area. I really need an explanation for this. Why aren't Commonwealth or Civic Republic soldiers allied with them? And don't tell me it's because the Marshals blocked their routes. I mean, some of these guys got helicopters. But moving on to the Negan side of the episode, we learn he has been sticking to his words last season and refusing to be the Dama's figurehead, even spending the last year behind bars eating cockroaches as a result, which of course harkens back to his days beneath Alexandria. I was really curious as to how they were going to get him to play ball, and we got that answer this episode, as we learned the Dama had tracked down Annie and his son in Missouri and has put them en route for the island as a way to threaten Negan into complying. I was really wondering when or if Annie would come into play, so I think this is a fantastic way to do it. I love that Negan is being forced to play the part of his former self when he doesn't want it. It really makes his redemption arc in the final seasons of the main show feel like it had some real weight behind it. But to help him get back into the role, the Croat gives him a brand new electrified version of Lucille to act as his Excalibur once again. I'm not typically a fan of the constant resurfacing of Lucille given how good that arc with Negan moving on was, but in this context it absolutely makes sense for him to have it, and you can just see the reluctance on his face as he's presented with her. I've seen a couple people mention this scene with the walkers fighting each other being kinda weird, as walkers don't do that, but I just wanted to touch on this and say I suspect they covered them in the guts or blood of the living in order to get them to attack. It's a dark scene and isn't elaborated on, but I just can't see any other way this would make sense given the rules that were established so many years ago. But moving on to the big unification pitch in the church, we see Negan stand before the warring factions of New York and plead his case as the threat of New Babylon approaches. Essentially, the Dama wants to unite the island under one banner in order to keep their fuel production methods for themselves. And although there is some initial reluctance, they do all come to see the vision after being shown power equals power, as Negan zaps one of the Defiers with Lucille before commanding respect. The setup is, again, quite simple but effective. The Barazzi have lights, weapons, and vehicles, while the other islanders do not. Manhattan functions on lawlessness, while New Babylon functions on order. So if they want to maintain this state of anarchy but enjoy the amenities the power provides, they were going to have to come together in order to expel them from their home. Simply put, Negan and the Barotsi have all the power in New York, so the others can either join them in maintaining this way of life, or become an enemy all the same. And to prove they are capable of what they say, the streets of Manhattan light back up and return to life just as the Islanders exit the church, indicating a joining of forces as the silent but seemingly influential Bruegel smiles while staring at the monumental achievement. But for the most part, those were my main thoughts on Dead City Season 2 Episode 1, an extremely promising start to the season I had very little issues with. I'm really curious to see what happens to Pearlie given he lied about killing Negan, and I'm also really interested to see where the season takes Herschel Jr. considering he was left behind. But for right now, I am most intrigued by the inner workings of New Babylon and the clans of Manhattan. The world is clearly changing, and this show is really showing that firsthand, which I absolutely love. Many fans have been confused on the direction of the franchise ever since the defeat of the CRM, so I am very happy we are progressing forward again as Daryl Dixon is truly just a roadshow. But I just wanted to touch on my thoughts here today instead of going really in depth with everything we've learned, as I will have plenty of time to go over all the lore reveals in future videos. But I'm extremely excited to hear what you guys thought about the episode in the comments down below. But that's gonna do it for me today, folks. As always, thank you so much for watching.